Welcome to the Sonic Collective, where music's past meets its future. Join hosts Alan, Scott, and Darren Scott as we explore the albums, artists, and movements that shaped the music we love today. From legendary records and influential musicians to rising artists creating tomorrow's soundtrack, we're passionate about helping music fans discover what matters. While streaming algorithms push what they're paid to promote, we dig deeper, connecting you with the classics you need to revisit and the new artists you need to hear. Rediscover the music that shaped the past. Discover the artists shaping the future. This is the Sonic Collective. I'm Darren Scott, and this episode is part of our special Sled Island series, celebrating one of Canada's most unique and important music festivals. For nearly 2 decades, Sled Island has helped transform Calgary into a destination for music discovery, bringing together local artists, emerging talent, and internationally acclaimed performers in venues scattered throughout the city. It's a festival that has introduced audiences to artists they may never have otherwise discovered, while also giving Calgary musicians a platform to grow, connect, and be heard. In our main feature episode titled Sled Island, the Festival That Changed Calgary Music, we explore the history of the festival, its impact on our local music scene, and why it continues to matter not just to Calgary, but to independent music culture across Canada and the world for that matter. As part of the project, we're also sitting down with several local artists, some performing at the Sled Island Festival, to learn about their music and understand what the festival means to them. But today's guest is someone I've known for many years. Conrad Sawatsky, better known in the music circles as Conrad Montana of the band Les Gigantiques. There's my French immersion coming out. But he used to play with the Cripple Creek Fairies, the Shinolas. He's been in the Calgary music scene for years. But I wanted to connect with him as somebody who has not played the festival, but has been in the scene. Les Gigantiques is one of those stories that perfectly captures the spirit of independent music here in Calgary. More than 20 years ago, Conrad and Gary Reimer recorded an album alongside Andrew MacDonald and Matthew Tate. Like so many great recordings, it quietly disappeared in the archives of time. Then, years later, the folks at Trap One Records rediscovered the recordings and asked a simple question to Conrad. Hey, can we re-release this? Thankfully, Conrad said yes. That unexpected discovery sparked a new chapter for the band. Conrad and Gary reunited, recruited an outstanding rhythm section featuring Daryl Hartland and Joseph Vulich. Hopefully I pronounced that right, my friends. And they began performing these songs for a whole new audience here 20 years later. They just released an album. It literally just came out June 8th. You can check it out on Bandcamp, search for Spotify, YouTube, all those platforms. It's great, very cool music. But in this conversation, Conrad and I talk about the origins of the band, the unlikely story behind these recordings, Calgary's music scene, and what Sled Island has meant to him and the local scene from a perspective of someone in the scene that has not yet had the chance to play the festival. Anyway, without further ado, here's my conversation with Conrad Sawatsky, or Conrad Montana, of Les Gigantiques. Enjoy. Okay, we'll get started. So, Conrad, you and I have known each other for a very long time. We met at Smuggler's Inn. We both worked there. What year did you start there? When was that?
I started in 1998.
98, okay. Like, I knew it was the 90s. We've known each other for 28 years, but I think one of the first things I learned about you, and I'm a huge music nerd, but not really musical by nature, but is that you were a part of the local music scene. So maybe just tell me about your early experiences with music earlier in your life, and then how you got into music and playing locally.
Yeah, I was always a musician. My dad was an opera singer. I always grew up around music, so it was always part of the background, there was always music playing in my house. So I was always playing piano, trombone, and then I picked up bass and guitar when I was in later years of high school and started a band and played some of the churches and stuff like that. But then when I really started to get into playing, I met Laurie Matheson, and I knew his girlfriend at the time, and she introduced me to him, and we started a band together right away. We hit it off right away. So we started a band called Anxious Poets and got our first show at the Westward Club in Calgary. Our first show was actually in Saskatoon, which is weird that we went out to Saskatoon, but our first show was at the Westward Club in Calgary, and then we just started playing Republic, Night Gallery, the Warehouse, all of those old haunts in the early 90s. Anxious Poets broke up. Shinolas started, and for the rest of the 90s, I was in the Shinolas. And then Cripple Creek Fairies at the end of the 90s wrote a song about me called Conrad, Montana, and asked me to play keyboards on it. And then I ended up joining Cripple Creek Fairies and played with them until 2007 or 8 or something like that. And then I took a break. I was playing in Les Gigantiques at the time as well, but we were called the Gigantiques. And we took a break, though, for a good while until 2021, 22. I ran into my friend Rick Overwater, and he asked me to join his band, the Deadly Skulls. And that's the history. Les Gigantiques is now revived as well, and I'm right back into the Calgary music scene.
Yeah.
So there's history of how I got into and what I did for the past 30 years.
Yeah. And also, I remember too, you're part of like the Rat's Nest Cassette Preservation Society, where you were actually gathering recordings of local artists and kind of preserving them. Like, who were some of the bands and what was that about?
Okay, so that's two different things, actually. Calgary Cassette Preservation Society is Arif, and I gave him a bunch of my stuff, and he recovered a whole bunch of my old recordings on cassette for that. The Rat's Nest Recording Society, we actually recorded a lot of old bands like Miko and Hurricane Felix and, who else? Rayovac. There's like a ton of bands. There's actually 2 CDs out as music that we recorded at the Rat's Nest Recording Society. And that was like a nonprofit thing, and that I was vice president and then president of for a number of years until it kind of went away because recording in the studio wasn't as easy anymore, and it cost a lot too. So,
yeah, no kidding.
To a halting and kind of in the early 2005, I think we finished in there. But so I was part of that and small part of Cassette Preservation Society, just donations though.
Yeah, but very cool that people were taking the time. And there's some great compilations around. I know there's some on vinyl and other things like that. If you're looking for the history of Calgary, go to your local vinyl store and ask. And I know they'll have some stuff there. But I mean, so obviously, hey, you're a guy that's been on the music scene here locally for a long time. We talked about it a little bit as we were getting ready here to start, but tell me, like, how and when were you introduced to Sled? Because I know it was very early. Tell me your Sled introduction experience.
Yeah. So Zach, who was one of the first drivers behind Sled Island, was looking at Pop Montreal for a template for Sled Island. And I didn't know what the name of the festival was going to be at the time, so I didn't know it was called Sled Island. But we flew out to Montreal and played an Alberta showcase. I was playing with Cripple Creek Fairies at the time, and Forbidden Dimension and Sudden Infant Dance Syndrome. We played a Alberta showcase at Pop Montreal, And Zach was the one that kind of got us out there, for what I remember anyways. And we talked about how Pop Montreal was laid out and that he wanted to do a festival exactly like that in Calgary. And next thing there it was. And so I was kind of knew about it before it was happening, and a little bit involved in talking to Zach about how we wanted to do things.
What's sorry to interrupt. What's Zach's last name? Who?
Pishak.
Pashak. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He is no longer in Calgary, and I'm not sure how amicable the relationship ended with Sled. He's a interesting individual, so I don't know the details. He's no longer involved in that. So
yeah. So the early years, so Sled starts here, kind of seems like loosely based off Pop Montreal. I guess what were from some of your first actual Sled Island memories?
I got some great memories. I don't even know which ones are the first ones, but I saw Guided by Voices played one of the earlier ones, and they're one of my favorite bands. So that was like one of the big ones for me. Seeing Television at Sled Island was ridiculously good too. Just legends. And Yola Tango, and yeah, just I remember Yola Tango played one where they did they talked to the crowd afterwards. They took questions from the crowd after the show, and my son Jacob was one of the guys that
Sweet.
He was like, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old at the time, asking how to make it as a young musician. And then they said, don't do it.
You gotta love it. You do it for love, not the money.
Yeah, totally. And then just recently, this past year, actually, I went to bobsled in February. So like the winter version of it, and saw this band called Sour Widows that I'm totally obsessed with now. So those are my one highlights. Barty Strange a few years ago when he was the curator, fell in love with him too. Etobicoke Beaver last year.
Oh yeah, I saw that show. I saw you there. Yeah, we saw each other.
Yeah, that was a fantastic show. Yeah, there's tons and tons of highlights of Sled Island shows, but
I think, and that's one of the key things of Sled. It really is a discovery festival, and I mean, there's a lot of bands you might not necessarily know, but once you learn them, and you've mentioned a lot of big names from the past, but really there's tons of bands that have played, and then all of a sudden a year or two later they're huge. So I mean, you're really seeing these bands before they explode a lot of times, and it's in these intimate, cool venues. Yeah. So speaking of that, I mean, you mentioned some of the old school, like the Night Gallery, the Warehouse, the Republic. But what are the places that are really supporting live music now in Calgary that you would like? I always try and give them shout outs, like go see live music. So where is that right now in Calgary? Where's the scene?
There's the cool little places that I really love are Loophole and Blocks. And you put your own shows on in there, but they're so super supportive, and they're just little places. Like Loophole is just, I think the capacity is like 55 people, but I've played probably 5 shows there now, and they're just so much fun. And the kids, when it's all ages in both of these venues as well, all Blocks. So the kids come out and they support, and they're so much fun to be around. See where there's the bigger places like the Palomino has always been supportive, and love the Palomino. They're super great there. Those are kind of my 3 that I can think of off the top of my head.
There's lots of great ones, and many that I've interviewed have talked about Loophole and Blocks as well. So that and all genres too. And I think that's the thing too. Yeah. It's not like people are saying, oh, it's a rock club or it's a hip hop club. No. There's these spaces you can come in and hear, industrial one night, hip hop the next, indie the next, and then maybe some kind of noise the next. There's really some cool things happening. And I think one thing, we've lived in Alberta a long time, and especially now politically and in the news, we get there sometimes the wrong reasons, but we're not just the Calgary Stampede in country music. There is such a vibrant music scene here in Alberta in general, but in Calgary. So, let's a few more questions about Sled, and then I want to talk about your latest project. But, Sled, I guess, tell me about, we talked about the bands and stuff, but I think what people aren't really understand about Sled is how unique the experience is, like how close the clubs are. And I guess, what do you love about those days of just experiencing Sled? Take me through a day in the life of Sled for you.
Yeah, starting off at the Palomino, walking down to the Palace to see a show, and then run over to like Loopholes doing shows over there for Sled as well. And then all the breweries that have gotten involved too, that are all close to downtown. You run down to Dandy and that kind of thing. I've never been, because I'm an old man now. You know,
we're not old anymore. We're just vintage. We're vintage.
Oh, yeah, vintage. That's it. That night, the Etobicoke Beaver night, we ended up at Dickens after that I don't even remember who was playing, but it was so cool. And it was completely different from what we were just at. It was more industrial dance kind of music, and it was super fun. But yeah, it's so cool to just jump around from venue to venue. If you got the pass and you just go to one to the other. But for me, I mostly pick a show for one night and go to that show, and that's kind of my thing. And that's my experience with Sled.
Yeah, it's great. And for those that haven't experienced it, I mean, most of the bars, and it's usually smaller venues or medium size, a couple larger ones, but they're really within a few kilometers of downtown in general. Like a lot of people use the e-scooters or just bike. They install bike racks out in front of all these places, so it's safer, hey, even if you're drinking, maybe watch it on the bike too. But I mean, it's such a unique, and you can just go, if you have the pass, you go one to the next, and there's comedy, there's film, there's so much more with the festival as well. Yeah. And the breweries scene is cool, but Dandy's been a sponsor. 88 Brewing has been a sponsor. I know peers of ours, Confluence Distilling. So you can see these cool spaces and experience these, great artists. I guess, what do you think Sled Island has that maybe other music festivals don't have?
I think it's just the sheer amount of bands that are playing it is like the variety of bands that are playing it. The fact that it goes on for 4 or 5 days. Is it 4 days or 5 days?
I think it's 5 now. It goes Wednesday to Sunday now. Wednesday to Sunday. Yeah. I think the big wrap-up night tends to be the Saturday, but stuff happening on the Sunday. But the Wednesday to Sunday.
Yeah, it's just the exposure. And the other cool thing about them is the playlist that they put out of, cover these bands. So you don't even have to go to see them all, because you still get the chance to hear them, because they put that cool discovery playlist together. Is on Spotify?
Yeah.
We do that? Yeah, like that's really, I think they just, the diversity of it is just incredible. It's so big and so supportive of all different types of artists as well, like supporting the Indigenous and all of the minority artists that are out there. They get a platform through Sled that they wouldn't normally get, I think, and that is awesome. Imagine one of the big reasons I'm a big supporter of it.
Yeah, you read my mind. I literally had that as the next point to ask you. I think one thing that's really unique, maybe not unique, but very prominent, is it's a very safe and diverse space. You can go and you can be like, I'm 56, but you love my music. I can be the guy downstairs in the Palomino, and a lot of times there's all ages shows, and there could be a 15-year-old standing beside you, and then a guy in a full mohawk on the other side, and then, but you're all there just enjoying the experience, learning, discovering the artists, and it's a very safe, diverse space. And I think it's beautiful for that, because, especially in a world now where everybody's dividing, it's like a Sled does a good example of like, hey, if you just come together and really just to celebrate these great local bands and other artists, like, wow, what a cool experience. Like, yeah. And I mean, you also hit it on the head. I used to love Spotify and some of these streaming services because they used to have good recommendation engines, but now it's all paid for. It's all BS. It just serves you the same pop crap you probably don't want to hear. No offense to it. I love pop music like anybody else, but it's getting harder and harder to discover. So when you go into the Sled playlist, like these are actual bands that are going to play, and they're working their butts off to get you to notice them. Those are the types of playlists you want to like and subscribe to and then keep listening to. And that's how you're going to really learn artist and does a good job pulling locally, not only from just Alberta and Calgary and Edmonton and other areas, but this side of the world, like so the northwestern states and, you know, people from BC and Saskatchewan. And it really pulls because geographically, I mean, it's not like people play Toronto and then just do a quick drive to Calgary. That's like a massive amount of distance. So we really have our unique ecosystem here in kind of the western states in Canada. So very interesting that way. All right. Well, we kind of talked about Sled and your history, and you mentioned it a bit already, but your band, Les Gigantiques, has just released an album. So tell me about the band, the history of the band, who's in it, and, you know, tell me about this new album.
Okay. So the new album is an old album, funny enough. The recording itself is actually 20 years old. We recorded it and then didn't do anything with it. And so I gave it to my friend Darren, who is one of the main guys at Trap One Records. I had no idea about that at the time. I just said, hey, yeah, I've got this album. You should check it out. And just gave him a copy on CD. It was a couple of years ago now. And the next day he came back, he said, who's involved with this? I need to know more about it. And can I release it on my label? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Over the past couple of years, we've been toying with different ideas and stuff. And finally just went, let's just release it. And so the vinyl is coming in August. Don't have an exact date yet, but it should be here in time for our vinyl release party, which is on August 23rd at Blocks. But today, funny enough, June 8th, it has gone streaming. So it's available everywhere right now, Bandcamp, and then all of the Apple, Spotify, all the streaming services, YouTube. You can find it everywhere now. But if you want the cool tactile experience, you'll have to wait till the vinyl gets here in August. But we're going to have a big release show. It looks like we've got one of my favorite bands opening up for us called Left Bank. Some cagey old vets playing in that band as well, but kind of art rocky, really cool band. Gonna be with us, and they're on Trap One Records as well.
Yeah, very cool. I have listened to it, and it's great. It's a lot of fun. I didn't know it was 20 years old. I'm surprised. It sounds great. I mean, I guess, how would you describe the sound or genre that you're playing on this?
I've been going with alt, goth, pop, shoegaze, country.
I kind of love that. And you're doing the vocals, and I know in past bands you've done vocals, but not necessarily the lead. So, you know, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I'm doing lead on, probably 7 of the 10 songs. And then my friend Gary is the other 3 songs, I believe. But yeah, it's songs mostly that me and Gary wrote. So they're, my songs and his songs. And yeah, being the lead guy is a little different. I'm used to being the sidekick, the one that's standing on top of the keyboard. And
yeah, I was just going to say, I've had the pleasure of seeing you live several times, and Conrad is a high energy show in himself. If you've seen any of his bands, you'll remember Conrad. He's like 9 feet tall and jumps around. And didn't you actually just hurt yourself a few years back jumping around?
I did. I joined Deadly Skulls. My first show back, I stepped off the back of the stage and jumped at the same time, not realizing how close I was to the back of the stage, and tore my Achilles.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was walking for... What was it? I think it was like 3 months. I was in a walking boot after that. But yeah.
Hey man, for the love of the art, and
exactly.
And I really like the sound of this album, and it's always hard to compare, but like even your vocals and the vibe. Sometimes I was coming in and out of I'm getting hints of like kind of Dylan or Jonathan Richman or Michael Stipe. I was getting these really cool alternative singer like sounds out of it. And I mean, I love all those bands, and it was just like, but in this kind of modern, rock flow, and it's a great Great album. So, I mean, you have the release party coming the 23rd. Are you going to look to maybe do a little tour, even in and around Alberta? What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, we're thinking after that, I haven't got anything in the can yet, but yeah, we would like to tour in and around Alberta for sure. Interior BC, if we can get out to Vancouver, we'll probably do that. But we are, Gary and I have been talking a little bit about trying to play in Europe, because we really would like to just get out and do something that we've never done before. And so we'll see it. Hopefully that'll happen, but we don't know yet.
Yeah. And I mean, as mentioned, we're a little more vintage. So, I mean, it gets harder, like, with everybody in the band has to get all their lives covered to go do it. And that wasn't like when you're like in your 20s and you're like, screw it, let's just go right now,
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, we all have to get time off work at the same time.
Yeah, I hear you, man. So, Sled this year, I assume have you got a pass? And if you do, do you know what bands you maybe are going to go try and see this year?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of the beauty of Sled. You don't have to. You can just kind of wander around and just discover as you go. And if you're at one place and maybe it's not vibing, you're like, oh, I'll just walk 2 blocks to the next and see what's going on there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, awesome. Anything else you're excited about? What other local bands? I always like to ask that. You've mentioned many you played with in the past, but what local bands, especially around Calgary now, are you listening to, or would you like to give a shout out to?
Toxic Femme is probably my favorite local band right now. I just love those guys. They've just gone. They've gone to the next level. We played with them at Village Brewery a few weeks ago now, and I hadn't seen them in a few months. They're just elevated their show. They're just so good now, and I've been watching them since the day one and all their lineup changes and stuff. Wow, like they've really gone next level. Gush, we just played with them a little bit ago. 90s. There's kind of a vibe to them. And they're really good as well. Yeah, we talked about that. I like some of the old guys, like in Battle River and that kind of stuff. Laurie Matheson has a new album out. It's a few months old now, but really great album that I left. One of my old vintage guys. Just trying to think of some of the young. Stutter. Another younger band that I really like. They've been coming along. The Medusas, unfortunately, I think that they might be done, but they were one of my faves as well. Yeah, I blank on the rest right now, but there's just a million bands in Calgary. It's kind of crazy how cool the scene is. And
it has grown, and we were talking about a lot of them, but there's all these great spaces now. And they become more open and, accessible, whereas in the past, maybe there was several clubs, but if you weren't kind of on the A circuit of local, you were having trouble getting in them. So now you can, like you said, rent some of these small spaces or just approach them and to come in and do a show on like a Thursday night or something, and you'll get that opportunity. So that's great. So Conrad, vintage again, as we said, but, still young at heart, as we all are. But what advice would you give to those, like maybe kids coming out of high school or kids starting their own bands now, especially in Calgary and Alberta? Like, what advice would you have for them and about their music?
Yeah. Just do it. Just keep doing it. Put your own shows on. If you can't get into blocks or a loophole, rent a community hall. Just get your music out there and just play live. Record yourself. Just keep doing it. And persistence is the key. It's not going to be a quick road. It never is. But just keep doing it. I'm, 30 some years into this, and I'm never quitting. And just keep going, because it's rewarding. It's what we live for. We live for music and art and loves and all of those things. Don't go get a stupid day job, they say.
I kind of love it, man. Yeah. Conrad, thanks. Anything else to add before we sign off for today?
Not that I can think of. Just come down to our show at Locks on August 23rd and should have a good time. I've got the Brisky boys are going to bring some food down, so there's that. Sea Change is sponsoring us.
Oh, nice.
So there's going to be beer as well, but it's all ages too. Just come down and have a good time. I want to sell the place out and put on a good show.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks for talking to me, my friend. I definitely wanted your perspective as somebody that's been around and listening to the local music a long time. But yeah, I will see you around Sled. I will see you at your show. I'm excited for that. Check out the new album by Les Gigantiques. There's my French come out. And, it's great. Support local music. Get out there, see it live. Get away from your screen and in front of a band. That's always my advice. But Conrad, great talking to you today, and I'll see you soon, my friend.
Yeah.
Many thanks to Conrad for joining me today on the Sonic Collective and for sharing the story behind Les Gigantiques. I always stumble over that word. French, but cool. I think they were actually called the Gigantiques, he mentioned, but probably the English version was already taken. Anyway, one of the things I've always loved about Calgary's music community is that it never stops surprising you. Stories like this remind us that great music doesn't always arrive on schedule. Sometimes it waits patiently for 20 years before finding its audience. If you'd like to learn more about Les Gigantiques, be sure to check out their music. Again, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, all your streaming platforms, YouTube. Just Google Les Gigantiques. We will link to it in the show notes here, so please check that out if you're listening there. But yeah, try to catch them live. Again, he promoted that date in August, so be sure to try and check that out if you're in Calgary area. Anyway, Sled Island, really that's what the festival is all about. It's discovering artists, supporting local music, and finding something unexpected. This episode has been part of our ongoing Sled Island series. Be sure to check out our main feature episode, Sled Island, the festival that changed Calgary music, where we explore the festival's history and impact on Calgary's music scene. We have had conversations with other Sled Island artists that were playing the 2026 lineup. As of this recording, it hasn't happened yet, but be sure to check out the interview with K. Riz, Cartel Madras, Brock Geiger, and the Sun Glaciers, along with a post-festival wrap-up episode that will come out after Sled Island, where we'll look back at this year's event and share what we learned from the artists, the fans, the organizers, and everyone who makes the Sled Island experience so special. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, share it, do whatever you gotta do. Please help support these music artists. Grow local. Don't just fall to the trap of listening to pop radio or listening to what Spotify or Apple serves you. Independent podcasts and independent artists thrive for the same reason. Passionate people spreading the word. Until next time, I'm Darren Scott, and this has been the Sonic Collective. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Sonic Collective. If you enjoyed this episode, help us keep great music alive by subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing the show with a fellow music fan. Be sure to explore a growing catalog of album reviews, artist interviews, festival coverage, and music discoveries from across Canada and beyond. The theme music for the Sonic Collective is Dust by Les Gigantiques from Calgary. Our thanks to the band for letting us use and feature their music. Be sure to check them out. Until next time, keep listening, keep discovering, and keep the conversation going. This is the Sonic Collective signing off.